Hi everyone, Adrian Groenewald, Global Leadership Platform. Of course, this is our Global Leadership Conversation 1 because there will be many more. And I've got a very interesting guest all the way from Germany. Just a reminder, we have a global leadership crisis. We're trying to ascertain what is the top quality we need in order to turn around this global leadership crisis. But the first question we ask our special guests from all over the world, all different continents, is to define. That's what I'm asking now. Before I ask question number 1, I ask them to define the global leadership crisis. So with me today is McBain, all the way from Germany, and he's been engaging me via social media on Twitter. So I decided, well, let's get his voice out there for our Global Leadership Conversation 1. He's a management consultant, author, busy finishing his book, which would be interesting to read after it's published, and he's researching leadership full-time pretty much. So he's got time to think. Most of us don't. And therefore, I'm very interested in what he's saying. Luke, welcome to Global Leadership Platform.
Well, thanks for having me, Adrian. It's such a pleasure to speak to you.
I've had some fascinating conversations with people because I live here next to Kruger National Park. Moved here 2.5 years ago, and I'm busy, but I do definitely find time to think. And in today's world, it's a luxury. People are so busy. So Luke, let's start with question number 1. Before we go to what you believe the top quality is, just describe what you believe the global leadership crisis is. How does it look?
Well, I think it has a number of aspects. One of them certainly being that leadership theory itself is not really helping to overcome the crisis. I studied theory very carefully, and I think it's very, in itself, very conflicted, confusing. It doesn't really guide us to giving some answers, and that is part of the problem. So you have a lot of different conflicting models and theories and people out there who give different sorts of messages on what leadership could be, what their personal perspective on it is, what this theory says, what that theory says, and so on and so forth. And I think that is very frustrating for people who are working in leadership and are looking to improve their own work when they go into, let's say, one of these trainings and they hear these conflicting messages and say, what does that have to do with me and my personal situation? How does that help me as an individual? And I believe we have to come back to a point where we develop theory and practice which revolves around individual responsibility and individual, let's say, improvement of leaders, where leaders go like, that's really something for me. This helps me in the moment where I'm in that within my responsibilities to move a step further. And I think theory hasn't really done that service. I'm sure there's many good theories and models out there who do exactly that, but I'm just saying in general, it's very confusing, and it's confusing for a lot of people. So that is part of the crisis, I would say. On a more specific term, let's say on a more personal note, I would also add that integrity should be in the forefront when we look at leadership. I think it's the number one quality which is needed for good leadership. We talk a lot about ethics, and ethics is important, I agree. But before we come to ethics, we should come to integrity, understand what is integrity, what are values, how are they being expressed. And before that doesn't happen within the individual leader, I think we're not going to arrive to the point of ethics.
Okay, so let me understand. Let's expand just a little bit. So you come from a very strong academic angle when I say define the global leadership crisis. So leaders are struggling. The world is one place. It's highly integrated. And the whole VUCA question of being volatile and uncertain and I don't know what the other CEU, all those difficult concepts that are making it so difficult to lead. Your follower has changed dramatically. Their view towards leader and leadership title and position is not what it used to be. So there's so many aspects that's making it for leaders difficult to lead effectively. You're coming from an angle that says, well, fine, now we try and train leaders or develop them, or we bombard them with a lot of theory, but we're actually not clear about what they need. Our theory is not substantive. Our theory is not helping the current situation. Am I understanding correctly?
Absolutely. I think it's not helpful to have models and theories out there who try to give a sociological view on leadership, to say, okay, leadership is the relationship between A and B, or these are the traits, and so on and so forth. Because as an individual, you have a very subjective understanding of what your situation is. So you got to connect that to your own life and your own situation as a leader. And I've always seen within my colleagues, I've worked as a manager and leader myself and with my peers, and I've been in leadership trainings as a participant. And I sense a big frustration within, let's say, a community of leaders when they go to such events to say, well, that's fine and good that you have these models and theories out there, but I'm in a particular situation in my life, in my professional situation right now at this moment. So how's that going to help me? And then you're quickly in the situation of coaching somebody, which is fine. I have a lot of respect for coaches, but in fact, you got to start from the beginning. You got to say, what is the subjective experience of a leader? What does she or he actually do as a person, as an individual? And if you don't have that laid out to develop leaders, to educate them, to form them, to make them more resilient, self-confident, less vulnerable to chaos, to conflict, and so on and so forth, then you already have the beginning of the problem. And then later on, you bombard them with all sorts of different stuff, hoping that something will help them in their particular situation.
Okay, so maybe that's why the coaching industry has mushroomed and grown out there, like few industries, perhaps in the last decade or two, is because of this individualism when it comes to leadership, individual circumstances, because every human being is unique, different, and complex. So, can leadership training, leadership coaching, leadership development, can it adapt to your situation right now in Germany, mine in South Africa, someone else in Montreal, Canada? Okay, and let me just again reflect back. You're saying to our second question, what is the most important quality or attribute we need to develop, awaken, or improve in leaders if we are going to turn around the global leadership crisis? Are you saying you put at the top of the list integrity?
Absolutely. I think integrity is the number one quality a leader should have. The thing is, again, everybody has a different definition what leadership is and what a leader should be doing. And I'm always saying, well, first of all, again, the subjective experience of somebody who is in that position of responsibility should be described in such a way that that person can work with it and do something with it. And my definition of leadership is that this is somebody who turns the unknown future into the known. So that's my definition. It's very much different from people focus on the leader-follower relationship, which I think is just something further downstream. And also, I think that it's a little bit dangerous because leaders get lost in that sort of relationship. I mean, every individual is totally different, has their own interests, has their own mind, has things going on in their conscious being, let's put it that way, that how as a leader are you supposed to focus on all those different people? So I say the main focus should be on turning the unknown future into the known and then communicating that to others. So if you're able to do that, then probably you're a leader. And if you are a leader, you should work on, let's say, your well-being, because as we all know, in that situation, you're constantly torn apart from all these interests being forced on you, all that different kinds of information. So if I say, okay, that's what I do, how do I do that? And you do that through your value system, and you have to keep that intact, and you have to keep that within a certain degree of integrity. If you don't have integrity, nobody who listens to you will believe you in the long run. Like, you need integrity to communicate anything. You're being constantly observed by others. What is this person's decisions? What does he or she believe in? Where is this person heading towards? So, and if you don't have integrity, this lack of integrity will immediately communicate itself to others, and then you are starting to have leadership problems. Then people will not follow you. They will contest your position, maybe rightly so, but they will question you much quicker than if you have no integrity whatsoever, if you just blow with whatever wind is coming towards you, because you don't have the stamina to stand in that wind of circumstances. So integrity is extremely, extremely important. So how to train people in having integrity and knowing what their hierarchy of values is extremely, extremely important, because otherwise the sea of the world will just engulf them in all their interests and all their needs.
So let me try and summarize in my mind and even simplify for myself. You would define a leader as someone who takes the unknown future and makes it known. You are very strong in saying, okay, but then I need to continually have integrity within myself, know who I am, my values, and stay true to that. Because then whenever I communicate outwardly to an individual or to a team or to whoever, then there'll be credibility and respect. But you're not taking away from the fact that leadership is a lot about relationships, are you? So, but you are saying, if I can make the unknown known, and I have integrity, and I know who I am, and I'm clear about my values, and I live them, then it's going to impact positively relationships. Will that happen?
Absolutely. That's what I say. That's the effect which will happen downstream. But we focus so much on the leader-follower relationship, which I would rather describe as something as communication skills, for example, or negotiation skills and all that, which I say, that's fine. You need to be able to communicate what you believe we can achieve, the group or you will achieve in the future. You need to be able to communicate that to others. But if you don't have integrity, whatever you communicate is nothing anyway. So you can have the best possible relationships to your followers or to your staff or whatever, but what is that communication relationship worth if you have no integrity? Like, where are we, where in the end are you going to head? I mean, what are people going to believe? How are they going to be able to believe what you are saying is the best possible route into the future? They will just say, well, one day he's saying that and one day she's saying that. So we don't really know if she or he has a clear concept of the future and how we're going to get there. Yeah, I think that this part of leadership is sort of, I wouldn't say overrated, but it's overemphasized, and it doesn't help, again, the individual leader in his or her position to say, how do I strengthen my own ability to turn the unknown future into the known present? Because that's my core function of a leader. That's why I'm here in this position. And if we strengthen them in that, I sincerely hope they can also have very good relationships to their followers and staff in communicating what they believe is the best possible pathway.
Okay, so I guess then my last formal question is, how do you best develop or awaken or improve that quality of integrity in leaders? Is that, I think you hinted towards it, is that where you just have to help someone on a journey to discovering their deepest sense of values, what their roots are, and that sort of thing?
I think that would be the first step. Yes, absolutely. Like, if you would strengthen people, and especially young people who are just setting out on this journey to say, okay, I know who I am. Like, I don't need other people to tell me who I am or who they believe I should be as a leader, but I know who I am. I know where I'm going, and I'm self-confident in expressing that. That would be a great first step, because it would encourage people to stay true to whatever they believe who they are, and that would be integrity. So that would be a good starting point. And building on that, you can also have then an ethical discussion on what is good leadership or what constitutes that. But that would be the second step for me. And I see a lot of problems, even when I was looking around my colleagues, with even the first step to understand, who am I? What are my intrinsic qualities? What am I best at? How do I affect actually people with my belief system? That's already very often just absent. A lot of people are confused. Crisis engulfs them because they don't really know, where do I stand? Who am I? Do I really have any impact on others? And I go, like, it's bad that at the age of 40 or 50 or 60, you're asking yourself those questions, where maybe we could have helped people when they were 20 or 30 to figure that part out and say, it's good the way you are, and just do those things. And once you're in a crisis, you can still then reevaluate those values and perhaps find a different hierarchy of values to express yourself better after mastering that sort of crisis, that value crisis. So I'm trying to build something which helps the individual person in that responsibility, because I've experienced it myself, and it's not it's not a piece of cake. That's what I'm trying to say. So whatever we can come up with helping individual people right from the start to become better at what they aspire to be, what more can we hope for?
Mm. Luke McBain, thank you so much for getting your voice out there. It's been an interesting conversation, I must say. Before we let you go, share with us something interesting about where you live, the city you live in Germany, and why should people visit it if they ever chose to stop in that part of the world?
Well, I live right now in Berlin. I went here to school. I lived in many places in my life, also in Malawi, Africa, South America, North America, coming back to Berlin. And so I've seen a lot of changes here. Berlin used to be a divided city. It's not anymore. It's growing at a very fast rate. There's a lot of young people come here for, because I guess because the living is good. It's a very pleasant city to be in. Not very stressful. And it's a cultural capital. Like, it's just amazing, the cultural events which are going on here. I live 5 minutes away from a Picasso museum. It's just so if you want to come here for a cultural experience, if you have somebody who wants to study, I think Berlin would be a great place to be, because it's you can draw a lot from that city, culturally, historically. So yeah, that's you should definitely pay Berlin a visit, and you should come here to live. So yeah, it's a great place to be.
Is it very English?
It is actually now, by now, yes. In the past, 30 years ago, maybe people did have some problems with English, but if you come here and you know no German and you need to talk to somebody, just address anybody under the age of 30. So those people are fluent in English, no problems. They won't look you. They're actually very nice to tourists or visitors. So anybody under that age is fluent in English by now. So we already see, yeah, well, that's one of the effects of globalization. I think that younger people now know they have to speak English or a third language or a fourth language. So in that regard, it's become a little bit like the Netherlands. The Netherlands always used to be like that. In the Netherlands, everybody spoke Dutch, German, English, and now probably more language. And here in Germany, it's becoming like that.
Luke McBain, thank you so much for sharing that as well, and for your thoughts on the global leadership crisis. We appreciate it. Look forward to a Global Leadership Conversation 2 in the future, and others. And all the best with your book and all your studies. We appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.